then pieces of those funds essentially come to Washougal in the form of programs and that sort of thing. So that what you see here are some outside funding sources as well. Southwest Washington Area Agency on Aging and Disability. They used to be SWAR, and now they're SWAT. They provide some kinship resources, grandparents raising grandchildren, financial assistance. We can give people beds, car seats, food. That's a very rare resource in that we're sort of like pass-through funds from legislators wanted to support non-formal, these are not people who are involved in the welfare system, informal caregivers. So Renee,
so we find them.
Renee coordinates some of that. Clark County Community Mobilization Funds. That is also some federal pass-through money, if you like. Community mobilization is one of those things that talks about as the community grows together and sticks together, builds capacity, and families are more successful. They have the natural support networks and networking, kids do better in school, all those sort of things. We've been lucky with those funds. I'm not sure how much is left this year. You'll notice this 2008, they've been massacring those funds. But what that does is provide some of the staff time to work with individual families to do that family advocacy work, to help make sure people get to where they need to go and what they need to do. And it also covers some of the things like for parents having a challenging child on some behavior, challenging time with a child with some behavior issue, like we have a drop-in time with Pour Coffee with Margaret. So it provides for those sort of things. The parent can drop in, talk to a highly experienced family educator with some strategies around what to do about this behavior, or a referral into more concrete services. So we are partners in the center. We have what we call a cost share arrangement. It's not a lease. We have a contract for the building with you guys for, I don't know if we've ever paid. It's $1. So I think we're probably in arrears. So part of the cost share idea is that the partners pay a minimal amount that helps provide those shared resources, the shared space, some of Renee's time, the phone and the copy and the fax machine and things like that. So it works out pretty well. As I say, community chest is really, I'm sure we can't expect to maintain that ratio of giving from community chest, because I know the calls on their money are really coming up. And on this revenue, again, volunteers have been assigned a cash value, which kind of distorts the picture. The next page was just an outcome of that 1 hour, that 12 to 1 time frame. And we did that in 08, and we managed to keep it open during that time. But you can see it was really a pretty heavy use time. The last page, I'll skip over the other because that's where the charts came from earlier, is what we calculate our budget for the East County Family Center. And so that's the full, when we say with volunteers, if we were putting a dollar value on the work for the PIC people and the WorkSource people, that's what that is. So we calculate that we have a total budget amount of $88,000 that really comes out here. And off that, the revenue from the city is $10,000. So we'd like more. No, well, we would, but we find it pretty phenomenal and a sign of the sort of city that Washougal is, that you have sustained that investment. We think it's a valuable investment. It seems to us worthwhile, but we appreciate it too. Questions?
I wonder if Renee could give me a couple of stories
over the past couple of weeks
Sure.
that seemed particularly striking.
Did you hear the fire alarm go off the other day over there?
Is it
That was in the middle of a story with a grandmother who found herself unexpectedly taking care of her 2 grandchildren because their mother had been arrested, and she had no idea where to turn. She didn't want the children to end up with the father, who's a drug user, so she came into the center looking for shoes, diapers, clothes, anything that she could get her hands on without having to go back to her daughter's house. While they were there, and I was explaining to her some of the programs that we have, which is the Kinship Caregiver Support Program. We also have a Kinship Navigator that works out of our Vancouver office that can help families through the DSHS system or through the court system so that they know what they need to do to protect themselves and their grandchildren in that exact case. So while her and I were discussing that, her little granddaughter pulled the fire alarm.
Oh.
I knew it would happen someday, but I didn't know when. Now I know who to call exactly, but anyhow. So she just didn't have any clue when she came into the center that we had anything besides clothes and food. And a lot of people know that we will send faxes for them and that we have paperwork from DSHS, applications for food stamps and applications for medical and that sort of thing. But when they start hearing about some of the other programs that Children's Home Society has or some of our other partners have, that's usually when we really get to know the family and find out what, like Bridget said, what the underlying problems might be that we might be able to help them with. For me, the best stories are when I have helped a family or seen a family struggling and then referred them to one of our programs, and then I never see them anymore. Because they must be doing really well if I don't see them anymore. So those are the ones I'd love to bump into once in a while and just say, how's it going? There's one family in particular that she has come back recently because she's in the process of moving. You get a little bit behind, so she's come in for food, and she's let me know how her school's going and just the difference in the behavior of her children in the waiting area alone is phenomenal. She's been in counseling at Children's Home Society for over a year with one of her daughters, and then they include the whole family in that. One of the daughters had a traumatic event, and that's what led her to the Children's Home Society. But just working with the whole family, those girls now sit and read a book or take turns on the computer, when before they would stack all the toys as high as they could and make a mountain to knock down and so on. So those are some of my favorites. Christmas of 2008, I think it was that our snowy Christmas day? That was quite fun for me because we had Christmas gifts that some people couldn't make it out to the center to pick up. So my husband chained up my Suburban and I put it in 4-wheel drive and took my son's 19-year-old girlfriend with me and said we are going to play Santa and Elf. And some of the people we were able to call on the phone, some didn't have phones. That was the best, being able to knock on the door and hand them some gifts that were donated to us that we had set aside for them. So those are the fun ones.
I always recall the time the counselor at Hathaway called us, and she had a family, and it was, I think it must have been around that cold snap, but it was a cold snap. And this family was turning on the gas stove